For more than half a century, the Queensland Country Women's Association has been a well-known heart of rural Australia. Widely known for their crocheting, knitting, as well as handicrafts and scone making, this organisation embodies traditional Australian values and ideologies of equality, egalitarianism that embraces mutual respect and compassion for all.
Well, my name's Kaz Kokila. I've lived on the mountain about 10 years and I love the CWA, basically.
My name is Robin Dale. I am the acting leader of the Tamborine Mountain CWA. So when we become a branch, we will do a vote and then we'll have our very first president up here. So.
Loyalty to the flag, service to country, through country women, for country women, by country women.
The forming of the Queensland Country Women's Association in 1922 saw the introduction of a place for women to come together to share ideas and thoughts on a range of topics, from home decorating and baking to issues facing the local and state governments. Created with a direct focus on improving health, alleviating isolation, introducing a range of community services, and highlighting the importance of education, this organisation gained traction and momentum within its first few years of existence. With Australia being a male-dominated country at this time, organisations such as the CWA were crucial to alleviate the dire need that Australian women had to have their voices heard, and for the women to unite. Fighting for the introduction of rural medical services, including maternity wards in country hospitals, we can see that these ladies were not backing down in their intentions to better life for women and children in the outback. Over time, these collective voices have become noticed by authorities, and nowadays the CWA has an active role in influencing discussion on matters in Parliament, fighting for various improvements in legislation in Australia.
You ever heard of the Country Women's Association?
Yes.
What's it mean to you?
Just a group of women that try to help people out in situations.
The what?
The Country Women's Association.
I don't know, I've never heard of it.
It has been called the Chinwaggers Association.
Oh, well, I'd say it's more or less a glass session.
What the general public of modern society may not know about the impact of this association is that a lot of legislation that is currently put in place in relation to safety of others were pushed through with importance by the Queensland Country Women. Lines marking the outside of roads, laws making for the use of seatbelts in buses, as well as flashing lights when approaching school zones, were all petitions that had been put forward by the CWA and later made law by Parliament.
I think for me, it's bringing the women together. That was my whole focus when we started this, is to have that sense of community and bring women together and to support each other. That's what I get the most out of it, yeah. My inspiration was, I was sitting at home and I thought, I'd love to have some people over to do things, crafts or whatever. Another lady mentioned, why don't you restart the CWA? And the idea just grew from there.
So it was, since it began, Kaz, one of our ladies, put a thing out on Facebook seeing who wanted to be interested, so I went to that very first information session.
In contemporary society, where numerous platforms are being constantly created in order to keep up the facade of communication between friends and family, a loss of authenticity is being created due to the lack of face-to-face conversation, with the online virtual method being preferred. Because of this rapid change and transformation from the traditional meeting arrangement to online, a momentous impact on Australian society can be seen to have been evolved. In saying this, however, grassroots-style groups of people still hold the traditional way of meeting with each other as central to their organisation, and in an in-depth research of the Queensland Country Women's Association Mount Tamborine sub-branch will be showcased to highlight the importance of communication and fostering meaningful relationships, as well as their deviation from what could be seen as the traditional face of the QCWA.
The core values for the CWA are to support and educate and help women and families and children. That's what it basically started out as all those years ago when Ruth Fairfax started it. So, and even though we're not...
In comparison to 100 years ago, the values have remained the same, without a doubt, and it's still linking women together to work together for women's issues, and we have a modern approach now of how we fundraise and how we get our name out, but the values are still exactly the same, which is awesome. The core values of the CWA is working with women for women. And so that can encompass a lot of different aspects of women's health and issues that are directly for women, and we'll cover it all. We'll help anybody. It's been really positive. I think the community has missed having a CWA up here, and no one realised until all of a sudden we said, we're back. We're brand new, come and help us. It's been amazing. So like on the weekend, we were volunteering at the craft extravaganza, and we were shaking a bucket for a gold coin donation for our entry. And when people saw that we were CWA, we either had women saying, can we come to one of your coffee catch-ups? And we're like, yeah, always, or can we join? Or they were throwing in $20, $50 notes just because we had that badge on, and they know what we do in the community and how we can help. And you know, even if they're not able to volunteer at one of our craft workshops and stuff, it's their little way of helping directly to the people. So it's been amazing, really good.
Although the beating heart of the QCWA is to foster these relationships between women in order to work towards solving women's issues, the face of the CWA is changing. Although the core values of the association remain, such as the honours both to God and the Queen, and the intrinsic commitment to draw together countrywomen and girls to bring opportunities for recreation and enjoyment, we can see that the face of the CWA is changing. Although not fully gone, the days of elderly retired women coming together to exclusively knit and make scones has been largely replaced by a mixture of all ages, meeting to discuss issues in their area and to enjoy each other's company through shared interests and activities, even those that may seem unconventional. One branch in Queensland's north has turned this traditional view of the CWA on its head by entering into a demolition derby, and although not taking first prize, achieved the goal of showing that the face of this once very reserved association is jumping headfirst into the ways of contemporary society.
And the government does take notice.
The Derby fans certainly took notice. The crafty car was a hit.
Oh, it looks sexy.
I like the doilies.
And there's a crochet knitted quilt on the roof. It's really cool.
So obviously we've only been going a year, but in that year we've had a major trivia fundraising evening, which was a huge success. We have coffee get-togethers every 2 weeks per month, just as a social event for the ladies to come together. We have of course our monthly meeting. We've got the craft and sewing, which we've combined now, and there's other things that are in the pipeline too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So because we're a brand new sub-branch at the moment, we didn't have any funds. So we could have the best ideas in the world, and we still need resources to be able to help. So for the first 12 to 18 months, we have spent time getting out into the community, getting our name known, and starting to raise funds and finding our own way of how we wanted to help the mountains. So we would all brainstorm regularly different ideas and different groups that we want to help, and how are we going to go about that. So initially we started with learning I learned how to knit. The ladies have taught me how to knit because I had preemie twins, and you can't buy beanies big enough. So we spent a lot of time knitting beanies, which is really great. And we're about to take down our very first load down to the hospital and donate those, which is really special for me personally. Other ladies are really into the wildcare. So they were knitting and hand lining pouches for orphaned animals that have, their parents have been killed on the side of road and things. So, there's those sorts of things. And of course, we've got our large project, which has just been approved on Thursday by Council and the Mayor, which is the Feed the Mountain project, which
Though the tea and crafting still do exist, this particular sub-branch of the QCWA have placed large focus on the development of a community farming project that has intentions to better the health and education of those living on the mountain, with unrestricted, free of charge access to anything that is being grown.
This is our big thing. So we had a visit from the Queensland United Nations lady, and so she inspired me. I got this idea to have a community garden up here where we can grow fruit and vegetables and herbs, and anyone from the community, whether they need it or not, can come in and have access to free fresh fruit and vegetables. So of course we need land and lots of money and resources and a building. There's going to be a lot of offshoots to that project as well. So there's going to be a lot of education on nutrition and growing things, because I've got brown thumbs, so what do I know? And you know, cooking healthy meals, especially using things that are indigenous to our area and in season and those sorts of things. We'll have a lot of kids programs. Yeah. It's going to be a really big project, so that's what we've really got our focus on. So we're doing lots of different fundraisers and ideas, but we're all sort of channeling it towards that project at the moment.
Anne Bullen, running the Spring Hill branch in inner city Brisbane, highlights the importance of activities such as the Feed the Mountain project, highlighting that her own branch hosts a number of international banquets and has a variety of guest speakers. She states that, "We still have a lot of fun. We enjoy all the knitting, crocheting and cooking, but it is much broader than that. Most of the girls wouldn't be able to cook a scone if their life depended on it."
We've been well, accepted, and everyone's quite enthusiastic, and we've had so much offers of help from other social community groups and things like that. So we're all actually working together. It's just been great, yeah.
That sounds really good.
It is through this exclusive insight access into the Queensland Country Women's Association that it becomes apparent that the group is more than just morning tea. It is moulding and working with the influences of contemporary society to include a wider audience while still holding their ideologies close. With the opportunities for women to explore activities and projects that they hadn't previously, the organisation is promoting personal growth within its members and has definitely brought the spirit of community and the importance of creating community in both rural and urban areas. Aligning itself with the reason that the QCWA was introduced in the first place, it is evident that a core value of this organisation is to remove the feeling of isolation of both urban and rural women, and give them a place where they can foster friendships and connect with women with likewise mindsets to their own.
We've got a great community up here anyhow, and this is just amplifying it and concentrating more on the women and families, because that's what CWA is about too. So it's just a bringing together and for us to be able to help other members or other organisations in the community too.
I think it's really vital, especially when you think of it historically. So up here there was only, I think, 50 families when this mountain was first developed, and they didn't have phone lines and they didn't have paved roads. So the only way that people could get issues across and be able to do it is through this network, and it's really, really vital, especially well out west. But here, we're kind of on the border of a rural and urban area. We're really on that cusp there, but it still has its place. There are still people that are homeless and domestic violence victims, and people always, there is a time when everybody needs help, and it's so great when you've got an active, awesome group of ladies like what we have to be there to pick up the pieces when people's lives fall apart. It's awesome. Yeah. We have only done the scones once because it was assumed that we were going to, and I suppose we'd better. I think the special thing about our group is because we're so new and we are on a mountain with very clear boundaries around us. So we jokingly say we are the new face of the CWA. And while we will toe the line with CWA, we want to modernise it. So we are doing trivia nights, and we had a meeting at the German pub where we were, had champagne in hand with one of our meetings, and not to take everything so seriously and make it a bit more fun. And we only have one lady that's over 70 in our group. And while we would love to have any age group of women because they've got different issues that we need to be aware of, we don't want to stick to the status quo. A lot of our ladies do join for the social aspects. So they've, recently lost a partner, or they've recently retired, and the kids are grown up, so they don't have the school mums around, they don't have the colleagues around. They just want to get out and have a cup of coffee. So we can fill that gap. Yeah.
Looking aside from the general case study of the Mount Tamborine sub-branch of the Queensland Country Women's Association, it can be seen that the presence and the importance of the CWA is felt even in the smallest of communities. Exploring the town of Morella in Western Queensland through interviews from other news reporters like ABC, combined with external research, it can be seen that the CWA is one of the last standing organisations in the area, one that has stood the test of time and continues to bring the, albeit small, community of both men and women together in their secluded rural living area.
CWA was formed.
For the men in the district, the CWA has been a constant.
We used to have a tennis club, and we used to have a gun club, and a little school down the road. Well, they've all sort of closed down, so the CWA are the only community thing left in this little area. So if the ladies happen to close the branch, well, we'd miss them a lot, I think.
In the early days too, I think it was pretty important because there was not the facility, the roads weren't good enough for people to get to town very often, and so the ladies used to meet and get some, spend some quality time together. But now, as far as Morella's concerned, it's about the only thing that's keeping Morella here is this small CWA branch that's trying to keep it going.
However, although this wonderful organisation is proving to be an integral woven thread in Australia's national identity, some branches are struggling with an ageing population due to the small rural area that they are situated in, as well as a large portion of the community moving away due to drought. Branches such as Winton in Queensland have been forced to close its doors after more than half a century of operating, but can't find the numbers to keep it afloat. Mount Tamborine itself did have a pre-existing CWA approximately 12 years ago, but, because of lack of interest, also had to close down, but luckily re-emerging just over a year ago. To conclude, we can see that the emphasis placed on the bonds between community is a large factor of branches in the Queensland Country Women's Association, where members are contributing to projects greater than knitting a boy's jumper or cooking afternoon tea to share. Without grassroots organisations such as the QCWA, relationships within both rural and urban communities would not be as authentic, and women, especially in the past, would struggle to have had their voices heard. It can be seen that through our case study of the Mount Tamborine sub-branch that this organisation is evolving and adapting to contemporary society, creating a platform for members to evoke positive change in their community.
Pick up the phone, contact us. We would welcome you with open arms because that's what we're here for. We're here for you, for community, for friendship. It's simple as that.
It can take up as little or as much time as you like. And if you're a working woman and you're like, I don't think I've got the time and I don't want to commit to something, if you can't find time in a whole month, it just doesn't matter because the group will always be there and you will always have a friend. And if you ever need help, they are there for you. And it's just nice to be part of something that's bigger than yourself.